Toss-up 1, Social Studies. This man's troops had the only breakthrough of Jackson's lines at Fredericksburg, and he was shot 3 times during the 7 days' battle. His horse was named Old Baldy, and this man took charge of the Army of the Potomac after Joe Hooker resigned. Union forces defeated Pickett's charge under the command of, for 10 points, what general who won the Battle of Gettysburg?
Go.
Toss-up 2, Mathematics. For a real polynomial, the maximum number of roots with this property equals the number of sign changes between the polynomial's coefficients. When using the quadratic equation, the existence of 2 roots is indicated by this kind of discriminant, and the second derivative will be this kind of number at a local minimum. The exponential function's range is, for 10 points, what subset of real numbers greater than 0? Toss-up 3, Literature. This character pretends to be Rudolf Schmidt for a short while. He was the manager of his school's fencing team. The taxi driver, Horowitz, takes this character to Ernie's nightclub. He meets a pimp named Maurice, and when he doesn't pay for the prostitute Sonny, he is beaten up. He gets into a fight with Stradlater before being expelled from Pensy Prep. For 10 points, name this protagonist of The Catcher in the Rye. Toss-up 4, Science. This element combines with aluminum hydride to form a powerful reducing agent. The presence of this element can confirm that a star is a brown dwarf. The first man-made nuclear reaction transmuted this element into helium. Carbonate and citrate salts of this metal are used in psychiatry to treat patients with bipolar disorder. For 10 points, name this first alkali metal whose atomic symbol is Li. Toss-up 5, Miscellaneous. In the epilogue to Angels in America, the characters sit at one of these items named Bethesda. One appears at the top of the center panel of the Garden of Earthly Delights. In Angels and Demons, Cardinal Bagia is dropped into one of the 4 rivers. Ottorino Respi's composition about those of Rome features the Triton and Trevi. For 10 points, name this kind of object that Ponce de Leon hoped would restore youth. Toss-up 6, Social Studies. Samuel Butler was a missionary on the lands of these people. John Ross led a faction of these people who ceded land in the Treaty of DeWitt's Corner and in the 1835 Treaty of Nuoika. They received a favorable Supreme Court ruling in Worcester versus Georgia, but were forced to migrate to Oklahoma in the Trail of Tears. For 10 points, name this tribe of the Native Americans whose syllabary was created by Sequoyah. Toss-up 7, Social Studies. This school of thought was described as an open question in a book by Hilary Putnam. One member of this school of thought advocated a learning of doing system in his Democracy in Education. This school, whose members included Charles Sanders Peirce, and John Dewey, believes that hypotheses should be evaluated by their effects. For 10 points, name this type of philosophy whose leading figures include William James. Toss-up 8, Science. John Graham Cumming is currently leading Plan 28, an effort to construct one of his man's devices. In 1824, the Astronomical Society awarded him a medal for creating accurate astronomical tables with the help of a machine. That same machine was configured to find Bernoulli numbers by Ada Lovelace. For 10 points, name this English father of the computer who wasn't able to build his difference engine. Toss-up 9. Literature. In the Trojan War, Achilles fought a god of one of these entitles named Scamander. Tethys and Oceanus were the parents of most of these entitles. One of them caused forgetfulness and was named Lethe. The Greek god swore oaths on one of these entitles into which Tethys placed the infant Achilles to give him invulnerability. For 10 points, name these entitles, one of which circled the underworld and was named Styx. Toss-up 10. Mathematics. Tiberi Opopoviciuo names an inequality that provides an upper bound for this quantity. In a Poisson distribution, it is equal to the mean. This value, also known as the second central moment, is computed as expected value of a random variable squared minus the square of its expected value. Sigma squared denotes, for 10 points, what quantity the square of the standard deviation. Toss-up 11. Literature. In this play, one man cites the works of Puckner and Watman and his only speech which occurs after he is told think and puts on a bowler hat. Lucky is led by Pozzo on a leash in this play, whose main characters say let's go twice but don't move from a single tree on an otherwise barren stage. Estragon and Vladimir never see the title figure for 10 points. What absurdist play by Samuel Beckett? Toss-up 12. Social Studies. One rebellion against this leader included a siege of Kumamoto Castle. This leader, who puts down the Satsuma Rebellion, outlined the goals of his reign in the Charter Oath. His forces defeated Russia in a war ended by the Treaty of Portsmouth. At the start of his reign, he moved his capital out of Kyoto and ended in Tokugawa shogunate. For 10 points, name this emperor, restored to power over Japan in 1868. Toss-up 13. Literature. This author wrote a novel whose protagonist insults a woman's overly sentimental portrait of Gertrude. One character created by him debates Castilian politics with Joseph Connect. He wrote a work on which Hermione is lured into magic theater and murdered by Harry Haller. One of his protagonists seeks Gautama and his friend Govinda. For 10 points, name this author of the glass bead game.
Go.
Toss up 14, Fine Arts. One part of this work, designated number 5, depicts the ballet Tribly. Its next section depicts a conversation between two Jews. A tuba represents an ox cart in its beadlow section, and the orchestration by Maurice Ravel. Inspired by paintings of Victor Hartmann, several of this work section are separated by pramadas. The Great Gate of Kiev is the fine section of, for 10 points, what work? Modest Mussorgsky.
Toss-up 15. Science. This class of organisms includes Pisaster ocraceus, the first species to be described as a keystone species. Species in this taxonomic class have radical canals of their water vascular systems located along their arms. Defense Toss up 16, mathematics. Pencil and paper ready. Peggy needs to find the length of a shorter leg of a right triangle whose hypotenuse has a length of 52 and whose longer leg has a length of 48. She can either use a Pythagorean theorem or realize that the given side lengths are similar to part of a well-known Pythagorean triple. For 10 points, what is the shorter leg of the right triangle whose sides are either 52 and 48? Toss up 17, fine arts. Festivals celebrating this type of creative work include America's Glimmerglass and Italy's Arena di Verona. Giovanni Pergolesi created several of these works in a comic genre called buffa. They can be seen at Venice's La Fenice, at the Festspielhaus in Bayreuth, and Milan's La Scala. A composer and librettist collaborate to create, for 10 points, what kind of dramatic musical work like Tosca or La Traviata? Toss up 18, science. One of this man's discoveries led Albert Einstein to regret his cosmological constant. He placed barred and regular spiral galaxies on separate arms of his tuning fork diagram. His law includes a constant that is approximately 1 over the age of the universe and gives a linear relation between distance and recessional velocity of distant galaxies. For 10 points, identify this namesake of a NASA space telescope. Toss up 19, science. This quantity is the product of drift speed, cross-sectional area, charge, and charge carrier density. The Biot-Savart law can be used to calculate the magnetic fields produced by it. In some cases, that law simplifies to Ampere's law. This quantity is directly related to the voltage and inversely related to resistance in Ohm's law. For 10 points, name this quantity, the rate of flow of electric charge. Toss up 20, literature. One character in this poem moves in darkness, not of woods only and the shade of trees, and resembles an odd stone savage armed. This poem's narrator says that his apple trees will never get across to eat pine cones on the adjacent property, and claims something there that doesn't love the tile structure. For 10 points, name this Robert Frost poem containing the saying, good fences make good neighbors. Toss up 21, mathematics. Pencil and paper ready. Kathy needs to determine how many terms are in a particular arithmetic sequence. The first 3 terms of the sequence are -9, -7, and -5, and the sum of the entire sequence is 24. She can either apply the formula for the sum of an arithmetic sequence or realize that the many terms will cancel each other out. For 10 points, how many terms are in the arithmetic sequence?
Toss Up 22 Social Studies. In 2012, this organization mediated a withdrawal from Goma by the M23 rebel group. It plans to deploy troops in Azawad against Tuareg rebels, and Security Council resolutions 1564 approved the force it sent to a region where Janjaweed militia fought with the approval of Omar al-Bashir. For 10 points, those inventions in Mali and Sudan were launched by which continent-wide international organization? Toss Up 23, Fine Arts. One figure in this works wears a ring on his index finger and a beaded necklace with a cross. A man in its background holds a scythe and approaches an upside-down woman. Well, in this painting foreground, a woman milking a cow can be seen through the face of a goat. The goat face faces a man holding a tree of life who has green skin. For 10 points, name this painting by Mark Chagall, influenced by his hometown.
Toss-up 24, Mathematics. Pencil and paper ready. Tina needs to find the radius of a circle defined by the equation x squared minus 10x plus y squared equals 0. She begins by completing the square to put the x terms in the form x minus h quantity squared. Doing so requires a constant term that must also be added to the right-handed side. For 10 points, find the radius of the circle x squared minus 10x plus y squared equals 0.